Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thanks so much for clicking on my video. I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding planner based in Montana, and I make weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. So today's video goes out to all my fellow animal lovers and those that are wanting to incorporate their furry friends into their wedding. Of couples that are wanting to incorporate their pets in some way, shape, or form into their wedding day, whether that is physically at the wedding or honoring them in some way. So the three main ways that you can include your pet into your wedding day is to have them physically in the wedding, like walking down the aisle, part of the processional. You can have them on site, not necessarily in the wedding, but around so that they can be in photos. And third would be to honor them in some way if they are not available or able or allowed to be on site on the wedding day. And there are so many creative ways to do this. Personal examples that I have seen are couples including their naming their signature cocktails after their pets and maybe having a photo of their pet on the graphic for that bar menu, or having them on the stationery for your wedding, or having them as your cake topper, or finding other ways to include your pets into your wedding day if you're not able to have them physically there. If, however, you are planning on having them in person, the first thing you're going to want to do is to check in with your venue and make sure that A, you are actually in fact allowed to have your pet there on your wedding day, and B, find out if there are any restrictions that they have, maybe time constraints that you're allowed to have a pet there only for during the ceremony and then they have to be off site after the ceremony is over, or can only be there for an hour leading up to the ceremony, whatever that might be. Just check in with your venue and check in on any policies they may have regarding animals and pets in general. If you are planning on having your pet in your wedding ceremony, have a plan for how they're going to get down the aisle, as well as what's going to happen once they get down the aisle. So when I talk to couples about this, they have a plan for who's going to walk the dog down the aisle, but then kind of forget something has to happen with that animal once they reach the end of the aisle, right? So obviously you're going to have a plan for who's going to walk them down the aisle. A lot of times this is a member of the bridal party, maybe it's a family member, maybe the bride or the groom are walking the dog down. And then have a plan for who's going to kind of take over that duty once they reach the end of the aisle. Are they going to be handed off to another family member or somebody that's going to take them off site? Are they going to walk up and just sit at the altar and be up there for the duration of the ceremony? Figure out what the plan is once the animal actually reaches the end of the ceremony and make sure that you have a plan for that. You also want to understand that no matter how well behaved your dog might be on a normal basis, when you put them in front of hundreds of people that are, that want to give them attention, or they think they want to give them attention and they're trying to be focused on walking down the aisle. If your dog is someone that gets overly excited when you have guests over or when new people come around, this is going to be a huge distraction for them getting down the aisle. And if that doesn't bother you, then that's fine, but maybe keep that in mind if this describes your pet and having them walk down the aisle might not be the best idea. Number 4, you want to assign someone to be essentially the wrangler for the dog for the day. So sure, maybe you have a member of the bridal party that is assigned to walk them down the aisle and maybe take their leash, or they're going to stand with them at the altar for the duration of the ceremony. But you also need somebody that's going to be in charge for that animal prior to the ceremony as well as following the ceremony. So someone who's going to bring the dog on site, make sure they have a plan for that, who's going to transport the dog to the actual wedding, and then be kind of monitoring and dog sitting the dog while you're getting ready and leading up to the ceremony. So make sure you assign a specific person for that task so that they can be sure to be on dog duty for the duration of the time needed. You also want to make sure that you have somebody there that's going to be able to feed them. If it's going to be during feeding times, that the dog will be at the wedding site, and make sure that there is water available and somebody there to make sure that the dog is getting water, especially if it's a hot summer day and the dog is just kind of roaming around for most of the day. Make sure that there is somebody in charge of making sure the dog has water throughout the day. Additionally, you want to have a plan for what's going to happen after the ceremony. If this is a venue where maybe the dog needs to leave, they're not allowed to just roam around on site after the ceremony, make sure that you have assigned somebody to take the dog wherever it needs to go following the ceremony. If you are allowed to just have your dog be on site and you plan to just have them roam around for the rest of the reception, again, make sure that you are just having a wrangler be in charge of feeding times and Another thing to take into consideration is a lot of times at weddings during cocktail hour and obviously dinner especially, there's going to be food just kind of out, and whether that's, on a buffet table or you have appetizers out or even people that are walking around with serving trays and stuff, make sure that if your dog is somebody that likes to sneak food, maybe they don't even do that in your own home, but sometimes if a dog is in a new territory, a whole bunch of people around, they tend to act out and maybe not be as well behaved as they are in your own home. So make sure that if you are planning to have your dog just kind of roam the site, that you maybe have a better plan for food that's just going to be out on a table. This goes for appetizers, dinner, buffet, but also your dessert table too. So whether that is having them on not just on regular sized tables, but maybe having more cocktail style tables for these types of food items, or having a plan for having them somewhere where the dog is not going to have access to. Number 6, bring your dog to your rehearsal. So if you're planning on having them walk down the aisle, even if you're not having them participate in the wedding ceremony, but they're going to be on site during the day, it's a good idea to bring them ahead of time. This way, not only can you practice walking down the aisle with them, if that's something that you need to do, and maybe practice the handoff once they get down the aisle, but also it's helpful for the dog to be on site prior to the wedding day so that they have a chance to kind of roam around and sniff and pee on things if they need to, so that they feel a little bit more comfortable and familiar with the space before the actual wedding day. That might help with the kind of overexcitement that the dog might have and the nerves, and just make them behave a little bit better on the actual wedding day. Number 7, be sure to have a bag packed ahead of time, ready to go prior to your wedding, that will have anything your dog might need, food, water, toys, anything else that they might need, and have that packed and ready to go, and give it to whoever is going to be in charge of the dog on the day. This way you know that they have everything that they need, you're planning that ahead of time, and no one's going to have to track you down to find out any information that they might need to take care of your dog. And finally, expect the unexpected and be reasonable with your expectations of what the outcome is going to be with your dog participating in your wedding. I have seen dogs walk right down the aisle and have no issues. They might sniff or lick a couple guests on the way, but that always makes for a cute experience and cute photos. But I've also seen dogs go absolutely haywire trying to get down the aisle and don't even make it down the aisle. And again, that's still a fun experience, makes funny photos, as long as you have somebody there that can kind of take the dog off site if needed. Just be open to your expectations of what that's going to look like on the wedding day. If a dog jumps up on you or if they don't make it down the aisle, just don't be upset by things that maybe don't go picture perfect the way that you had planned. And again, expect the unexpected, and I think that you're going to have a great time including your pet into your wedding day. If you're somebody that's wanting to include your furry friends into your wedding day, hopefully these tips will make that a little bit easier and smooth for you. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice, and we'll see you next week.